Good afternoon, YouTube. Well, it looks like I'll finally get that afternoon commute for you. So I just got out of work, and this is my return trip home from my morning commute that I posted up a couple of weeks ago. The sunrise commute. And of course, as is wildly different from my sunrise commute, I take a less trafficked route home. Be careful today. I don't know if the GoPro is catching a lot of this activity, but there are little rain showers all around me here. So, I don't mind getting wet, but I don't like the torrential downpours that we get from monsoons. They'll put an inch on you at a rate about an inch in about a half an hour. And that kind of rate is not real friendly to riding around in. If it was just a slow rain, I can live with that. But a rain the likes wash you off the road. Now, here recently we had a couple of hurricanes come through. Well, the remnants of a couple of hurricanes that hit Mexico came through and flooded everything out, at least south of us. But the point is that the ground is well saturated right now. I'm not sure it can take much more. So when we do get another rain, probably won't be a great surface condition to ride in. So now, as I'm going to point out to you here, one of the things I like to do is take these smaller routes home. See here, I've got a two-lane road divided by a center turn lane. And the speed limit on this section of road is about 30 miles an hour, so much safer, slower route than I take in the mornings when traffic is much slower. And this is one of the things I do to soften my commute in the afternoons. And I think I mentioned this on my morning commute, but in many ways, so as I was saying, you can see the speed limit here is 25. And one of the cool things about this is that even though you're just sort of putt-putting along at a slower speed, you typically stay moving. Even the weights at the traffic lights are shorter in duration, it seems, this time of day, cutting this way, than they are on the main roads. So without the congestion of the main roads and actually staying moving all the time, especially in the heat, today's kind of nice because it's only going to get up to 92 miles, or 90 to 92 degrees today. So that should be pretty nice as far as that goes. But, when the weather is hotter, of course, it helps keep you cool and helps keep your motor cool to book along at 30 miles an hour. And not have to deal with all the extra congestion in the traffic. It's out on the bigger roads, so. One of the things I'm thankful about is that Tucson has a lot of these little side streets that you can slip in on and cruise. And of course, being on a motorcycle just makes it even better. So a couple of the other topics to talk about. I noticed something in a couple of videos. This tends to be a trend, it seems, in motovlogging, and that is talking about the wave. So I figured I'd get into the wave a little bit. wave for a lot of people seems to be a very sincere, heartfelt, and meaningful situation, and for other folks it seems to be something that they strictly reserve for people they believe fit into their particular likeness. For example, the common thread is that Harley riders only wave at Harley riders, and that Power Rangers only wave at Power Rangers, and occasionally the metric cruisers are mistaken for Harleys, and so there's all this stuff in between. I figure I will go ahead and give you a breakdown of how it works and how I experience it here in Tucson. And that is this. For the most part, most motorcycle riders will wave at each other regardless of what the other is riding. So with most motorcycle riders, we'll go ahead and give each other the standard wave, down low so it doesn't look like you're signaling a turn. And that's been my experience. There have been times where I don't get waved at, and this is what I find. Many times those that aren't doing the waving will depend on what I'm riding and what I'm wearing. So if I'm wearing the full face helmet that I'm wearing right now, I'm less likely to get the wave from a Harley rider regardless of what I'm riding. And that is the truth. However, when I'm wearing my half lid, which is what I usually wear when I'm riding the Enfield, I get a wave from every single Harley rider, every single cruiser rider, whether it's metric or Harley. And I've never not gotten a wave while wearing the half lid from a Harley or a cruiser bike. Now, conversely, not to lay it all at the hands of the Harley riders or the cruiser riders, there have been a couple of occasions where, in wearing my half lid and on the Enfield, I'll not get a wave from a sport bike rider. And not just any sport bike rider, because most of the sport riders that might be wearing a leather jacket, some jeans and boots or whatever, but in particular the ones that are dressed up like Power Rangers, the matching tops, bottoms, helmet, boots, buy the whole thing. The Power Rangers are less likely to give me a wave especially when I'm wearing my half lid, and I don't know why that is. So I'm beginning to think it's less to do with Harley riders being jerks than it is with I don't know, I guess some people just have a way that they want motorcycling to be represented. So I guess some people just have a way that they feel they'll limit their waving to certain people that are represented. Hey, I got the nod, I didn't get a wave, but I'm wearing the full face, but I'm on the Enfield. So now, if it had been the same traffic and I was riding the Honda or a KLH, I wonder if I would have gotten the same. It's hard to say. But at any rate, that's my take on waving. You know what? We're all in this together. Everybody on two wheels is looking at the same kind of problem. So, and the same kind of danger and the same kind of risk that we're all taking. I don't have a problem giving a nod or a wave. Sometimes I feel bad. Somebody will throw a wave at me, but I'm in the middle of clutching or maneuvering for something stupid that a cage is doing, and I'm not able to get the wave out there. And even in those circumstances, sometimes if I can, I'll at least throw my head up or throw my chin up and give a nod. So, I feel bad sometimes if I can't make that effort, or if I don't make that effort, but more times than not, I'll give everybody a wave. Well, the only exceptions being These guys riding around on the Jose Davidsons, and that is the beach bikes, the beachcombers that have been converted with a 10cc or whatever it is, maybe 25cc motor attached to them. So they're basically a bicycle with a little motor on it, and they go zipping down the bike lane, and they don't obey any traffic laws. And yeah, I won't wave at them. Ooh, look at all this debris in the road, man. This road must have been flooded good when all those rains hit. And speaking of the rains, I have a long weekend coming up here for myself, and I was looking forward to trying to explore a little bit and maybe even trailer the bike down to a couple of cool places and go for a ride, including the San Pedro River, but that's at flood stage right now. They're saying it's over 10 feet deep and raging bank to bank, and it's moving pretty fast. So I guess I won't be going down there because most of the roads to get to it are flooded or washed out. And same traffic for Peña Blanca Lake. That was my other option. And Peña Blanca Lake, the Santa Cruz River, is flowing again, and it's full of hazards and everything. So a lot of the roads going to that are also blocked up. So yeah, so I may have to find something, some other interesting things to go look at this weekend instead of running the risk of driving all the way down there just to find out the roads are all washed out, or maybe there's a lot of debris still in the road, and that could create a lot of problems for me. So I'd rather not do it that way. Interesting thing about these rains now, the hurricane contributed, the remnants of Hurricane Odile or whatever it was called, definitely contributed to our moisture. But this monsoon season's actually been pretty decent. It seems to have turned on and turned off and then turned back on again. But now that the hurricane moisture has gone through and really saturated the ground in a lot of areas, one of the things that's happened is our monsoon, a regular monsoon, which kicks up in the afternoons like it is right now, will aggravate the situation. So they said that there's a 9.5-foot wall of water traveling north in the Santa Cruz. The Santa Cruz and the San Pedro rivers, they flow north out of Mexico into the United States. And the reason they flow north is because of elevation. So I think these are, you know, several of the only rivers in North America that actually flow from south to north. But at any rate, because of all that moisture, the rivers are flowing and they're hitting their flood banks south of town here. But where that becomes a problem for us is that you've got more moisture rolling in the form of the regular monsoon rains. So in addition to the hurricane rains, we have these regular monsoon rains kicking in, and that's contributing to all the extra water in the river and the washes. The odd thing is we didn't actually see a lot of that hurricane rain here in Tucson. It seemed to pass south and east of us, but it sounds like the floodwaters are moving this way, and really just the streams and the rivers and the dry river beds and stuff like that are going to be full. No real threat of our house being underwater or anything like that. So as you can see here, you know, I haven't edited out many stops or lengthy stops, traffic lights. And I'm not too far from home, and we've been moving almost the entire time. And that's good for the bike, and it's good for me. Oh, we're going to get the full ride at this light, though. I see that wasn't too bad of a light. You know, so one day I was riding home here, and right through this area, you can see these yards have gravel in their front. And there's a fellow on an electric wheelchair. It was right there. And some kids were riding along on a skateboard. You know, it's two kids. Each of them had a skateboard. When I say kids, I'm talking, you know, teenagers. They were young men, I suppose. The size of a man, mind of a child kind of thing. And you know, seeing the guy in the electric wheelchair, you'd have thought, hey, slow down, maybe give way to him, right? No. They just kept on coming. This light turned green up here, but I'm not sure we'll be able to make it. There's someone in the crosswalk that'll tie us up. At any rate, they didn't give him way, and he thought better of it and just pulled off of the sidewalk to let them go by. Well, when he did, the little wheels on that electric wheelchair, because it's almost more of like one of those mobility carts. It was kind of a hybrid between a mobility cart and what you might think of with a normal electric wheelchair. And these kids just went right by him. He went into that gravel and got stuck. And apparently he's handicapped to the point where, you know, he could still stand up, but his legs obviously were not right. And he was trying to pull that thing out, and he fell over several times just while I was riding by. And then lots of people, I could see their heads turning to look at him, and nobody stopped to help him. So I did a U-turn, and I went back and stopped. Put my bike up on the stand and walked over there, flipped up my helmet, tried to make myself look as friendly as I could. And I asked him, hey, can I give you a hand? And he had difficulty speaking, so I'm not sure what his particular malady was. But he kind of nodded, and so I was like, okay, well, listen, I won't do it for you. If you like, you can help me. I said, just, you know, put your hand on the back of the chair there, and we'll pull it out together. So I did, and I picked up some of the things that he had dropped. And as I was walking away, you know, I didn't wait for a thank you or anything like that. As I was walking away, he kind of hollered at me. He says, hey, I could barely understand him. He says, do I owe you anything? And I thought to myself, well, what kind of world must we live in where the guy in the wheelchair who receives some Samaritan help on the side of the road feels like he has to pay for it? I don't know. That's just kind of weird. Anyway, got back on the bike, made it a few blocks west, saw those kids cruising down the sidewalk on their skateboards, and as I went by them, I made sure to honk my horn real loud. And for those of you that know, I changed out my horn, and it's quite loud. And so yeah, you know, they kind of jumped off their skateboards just to get a look around and see what was what, and that was about the end of that. So at any rate, I'm in my neighborhood, and looks like the back garage is closed, so I'll double back around, and I'll catch the rest of you folks later. You folks have a safe Friday. Bye-bye. The real Billy. This guy's a good old boy. Big old diesel truck, belts in some black.